Okay, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. If you're watching as a Patreon patron, we thank you. If you're watching as a Twitch Prime member who's remembered to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account, we're getting paid. Your name is floating right below on the ticker. If you don't see your name, you blew it. You didn't do it right. It's free. Do it. If you are subscribing on YouTube, thank you. And if you're doing none of those things, follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. Okay, our next question. Our question today comes from Sifted from Timmy. Publishers often have sales expectations for their games, as in always. For example, square-enix said Marvel's Avengers sold way below expectations. Yeah, they're pretty stupid. How are these expectations formulated? Are they based on some sort of market data, calculated from the amount invested in the game's production, or just pulled out of their butts based on anecdotal evidence? Yeah, good question. It really is a good question. I can tell you that game companies employ people like me who aren't quite as experienced or skilled or thoughtful or intelligent, and they ask them to forecast the number of units that are going to be sold. And the way that I come up with it is I look how similar games performed. I look at the studio's track record and I kind of guess at what the rating of the game's going to be. I think about the marketing budget behind the game. I think about the intellectual property. So if it's a powerful brand like Marvel's Avengers, you know that people are going to recognize it. And then we come up with a unit estimate. And I have two stories for you, both from, give or take, the same year. One from a game that came out in October and November of 2001 called Grand Theft Auto 3. And one from a game that came out in, I want to say, April of 2002, Spider-Man 2 from Activision. And I remember my unit estimate for Grand Theft Auto 3 was 325,000 units. And I said that because I said nobody wants to play a game where you kill cops, and it would fail miserably. And I was only off by like 30 million. I think first year it sold like 10 million, but I was only off by 10 million. And the other one, Spider-Man 2, I put out my model and I forecast the game would sell 1.75 million units. And I'm not kidding. I went to E3. So I think the game came out in April. And Bobby Kotick, I had my meeting with Bobby Kotick at E3, and Bobby Kotick goes, "Did somebody in our company tell you that game sold 1.75 million units?" And I said, "No, did it?" And he goes, "Yeah, but how did you know?" And I go, "Oh, because that was my forecast." And he goes, "Yeah, but how did you know?" So I told you those two stories to tell you that I bat about 500. But when I'm wrong, I strike out, and my bat never even approached the ball. The ball was in the catcher's mitt a second before the bat left my shoulder. When I strike out spectacularly, but sometimes I mash it. Anyway, how do they do it? I think that the marketing team, the development team, when they're budgeting the game, they will say, "Oh, this is going to be a 10 million unit seller, and here's why." And I think the analogy is to movies. When you decide to make a movie, you have to think about the box office that the movie's going to do. And revenue from a film is all just a function of box office. So it might be box office times 3, because the film ultimately does, and all the different ways you can sell a movie. But they have to start out with box office. And so when you make a movie like The Avengers, does it really matter if it's going to do $1 billion or $2 billion? I mean, you're going to spend the $200 million it takes to make the movie, because you're going to get your money back. But when you make a small movie, a romantic comedy with Rob Lowe, is it worth $50 million? Because it might only do $30 million in box office and you get screwed. So it's really easy to justify Call of Duty every year, because we know it's going to sell 20 or 25 million units. It's really hard to put the budget into, I'll bring back some memories, a game like Turok, which just about buried Acclaim. They went bankrupt a year after it came out. It's really hard to make a movie like John Carter, look it up, or Heaven's Gate, look that one up. Big budget films that almost buried the studios. So, the forecast is, because you look at the developer and you say, gosh, Respawn, those guys made Call of Duty games, and now they're making Titanfall, and they're really good, and they've never gotten below an 80 Metacritic score, and their game's going to sell 6 million units. And I think Titanfall 1 sold 8 million. Titanfall 2 sold 6. Why? I don't know. Maybe it was too close to Titanfall 1, not enough of a change. But the internal estimates are going to be wrong most of the time. Good example, if you look at the Battlefield series, Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4, I think 4 came before 1, but one of them sold 14 or 15 million units in the first 3 months, and the other sold 8. And they got about the same Metacritic score. And they weren't similar games. One was like World War I and one was like World War II. Why? I don't know. Is it? And it's not because the studio made a bad game. Maybe the World War II one was too much like Call of Duty. I don't know. And the World War I game was not at all like Call of Duty, so it sold more. I don't know. But imagine being at EA and they've got a Battlefield game coming out, this fall. Battlefield 2042, so that's set in the future. What's their forecast? The answer is 12 million units. I mean, they just told us. And could it do 9? Yes. Could it do 15? Yes. What's my estimate? 12. Because I'm not any better than they are at guessing. It's hard. So the answer is you're guessing. And when you try to look at it's one thing if it's Call of Duty and the range is 18 to 25 million units. It's pretty safe to say 22. But it's really hard when the range is 8 to 15. Star Wars games are like that. Sometimes they sell like gangbusters, sometimes they don't. And it's not a function of quality. It's a function of just the right time and what people are looking for. So games that come out annually are a lot easier to forecast than games that come out, every once in a while. And what's the next GTA going to sell? 140 million? I mean, I think that GTA 5 was a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. And I don't mean to suggest that GTA 6 is going to flop, but would it disappoint anybody if it only sold 100 million units? No. Or 50? No. So I think they had a unique set of circumstances launching on, PS3 and Xbox 360, a year later launching on PS4 and Xbox One, and then putting GTA Online out a year later and kind of requiring you to buy GTA to play that. Really smart. They kept milking it, and they're obviously selling that 140 million units. Literally 80 million of them were $20. So they aren't selling it for a lot of money, but it's still a once in a lifetime phenomenon. Hope that answers your question. But the simple answer is pulls it out of their butts. Okay, fellow babies, thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor. We'll see you next time. If you're watching on Patreon real time as a patron, thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube as a subscriber, thank you so much. Please remember to link your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account. Instructions are in the show description. Your name is scrolling below me as I speak. If you don't see your name, you didn't do it, do it again. And if you've done none of those things because you're just too lame, then follow me on Twitter, because all my Twitter followers are lame, just like you. @Michael Pachter. See you next time.